It all started when Sarah and her husband Daniel moved into their new home, an old Victorian-style house in a quiet neighborhood just outside of Portland. They had saved for years, and this fixer-upper was their dream project. But right from day one, something felt off. During their second week, Sarah was organizing the attic when she noticed something strange. The floor plan she had from the realtor clearly showed 3 bedrooms upstairs, but there was a door in the hallway that shouldn't be there. It wasn't just painted over or sealed, it was a full wooden door perfectly intact, old, with a rusted knob and carved patterns that looked like someone had scratched them in with a knife. Daniel brushed it off, saying maybe the house was remodeled years ago and the blueprint wasn't updated. But that didn't explain why the realtor had specifically told them this house has 3 bedrooms, no more. Curious and a little spooked, Sarah opened the mysterious door. Behind it was a narrow hallway with faded wallpaper and a musty smell, as if the air hadn't moved in decades. At the end was a small square room with a single window. But here's the thing. The window looked out into nothing, just a solid wall of bricks. There was no furniture in the room except for a wooden rocking chair in the corner, slowly rocking back and forth on its own. She turned around and bolted out, slamming the door shut. That night, Sarah told Daniel everything. He laughed at first, but agreed to check it out in the morning. When they returned to the hallway, the door was gone, literally vanished. The wall was smooth, painted white like the rest. No marks, no outline, nothing. Sarah started losing sleep. She'd hear the creak of the rocking chair at night. At first, she thought she was imagining it, until one night she left her phone recording on the hallway floor. The next morning, she watched the footage. At 3:17 a.m., the camera shook slightly. Then, the door slowly reappeared in the frame. The same carved patterns. It creaked open, and a dark shadow stepped out. The figure was tall, faceless, with long fingers that grazed the hallway walls as it moved. The video ended abruptly with static. They called the police. They found nothing. The next day, Sarah got a call from the realtor's office. But the voice on the line wasn't the woman she had spoken to when buying the house. It was an older man who said, "That house was never supposed to be sold. No one's lived there since 1983. Sarah asked, "What do you mean?" He replied, "That property was condemned. The last family that lived there disappeared after reporting a door that didn't belong." Twist ending. Sarah and Daniel decided to leave the house the next day. But just as they were loading their car, Sarah received a notification from her smart home app. Motion detected. Upstairs hallway. Attached was a screenshot from the hallway camera. The door was back again. Only this time, it was wide open. And standing in the doorway was Sarah herself. But it wasn't a reflection or glitch. It was her, in the same clothes from 2 days ago, staring into the camera, smiling. Sarah couldn't sleep. After seeing the camera screenshot of her own face staring from the mysterious door, while she stood across the hall, her body went cold. Daniel tried to convince her it was a glitch, maybe a double exposure or a bug in the software. But she knew what she saw. It was her, standing in the doorway, smiling in a way she never would. The couple left the house that same morning and booked a motel. But something about the house, it stayed with her, in dreams, in her reflection, in every shadow she glanced at. That night, Sarah had a dream. Or at least she thought it was a dream. She was back in the hallway. The door was open.
But instead of darkness, it led to a mirror version of their house, everything reversed, dimmer, colder. She walked through it slowly, her footsteps echoing louder than they should. The walls were damp, the air thick. And there, sitting on the rocking chair, was herself. But not her. It had her face, her clothes, even her voice, but the eyes were wrong, too wide, too still. And when it spoke, it didn't move its lips. The voice just echoed. "You opened the door. That means you can't leave now." Sarah screamed and jolted awake. But when she sat up in the motel bed, she felt something in her hand, something small and cold. It was the rusty doorknob, the same one from the secret door. Daniel tried to throw it away. He tossed it in a dumpster behind the motel, but the next morning, it was back on the motel nightstand. They contacted a local historian, desperate for answers. He listened carefully, then nodded slowly. That house was built over what locals used to call a thin place, a spot where the barrier between this world and the next is weak. The room you saw, it probably doesn't exist in the way you think. It's more like a doorway between echoes. Sarah asked, "What echoes?" The man looked at her and replied, "Echoes of you. Pieces of yourself that were never meant to see the light." He warned them, the longer the door stays open, the more real she becomes. Sarah and Daniel returned to the house with one mission, to seal the door forever. But when they arrived, the door was already open, and this time there were footsteps in the dust leading out into the hallway.